Hello and welcome to the EPRI Current. I'm your host, Samantha Gilman, and today I'm joined by Bobby Noble, the Senior Program Manager for Gas Turbine R&D here at EPRI, for a conversation about a topic that's been in the news quite a bit lately, and something that's top of mind for many electric utilities out there, and that is gas turbines. Both the increased wait time to receive new turbines, but also the cost implications. So thank you, Bobby, for joining us today. And before we really get into the topic, I want the audience to get to know you a little bit. So tell us, what do you do at EPRI? Why is this what you chose to do? And a little bit of your background on how you got here.
Sure. So first of all, I've been at EPRI for over 9 years now. And so prior to that, I actually was the director of the combustion lab at Georgia Tech. And so I guess what got me into gas turbines was the ability to burn things. And so I think that was an attraction coming out of undergraduate studies and moving into grad school. There was a lot of cool opportunities. And so actually, interestingly enough, some of the other hot topics are around hydrogen and alternative fuels. Well, that's actually what I started out in grad school doing, was combusting hydrogen and looking at those properties. So from there, it moved further into a consulting realm. And so I actually consulted with EPRI for a while I was at Georgia Tech. And that led to a full-time position here at EPRI. And so since joining EPRI, I've been involved in a multitude of projects, including looking at various analytics from not only a combustion standpoint, but an entire gas turbine, looking at digital twins and other aspects there. And so really just the gas turbine itself is a complex beast. And so I've thoroughly enjoyed being able to not only work on the combustion aspects, but on all the other various technical areas within the gas turbine. And so now I've been the program area manager for right at 5 years. And so this has been a great time to be able to manage this portfolio, as there's so many wonderful topics, not to mention just being able to get a gas turbine, but so many other topics that are, interesting from a research standpoint and really impactful for the industry.
So set the stage for our listeners. Like I said, been seeing on the news and hearing about these increased wait times for turbines, and the costs are going up. What are you hearing?
This is a great topic that a lot of our members have been asking. And really, when you think about it, I've had a lot of opportunities to talk to folks at various conferences and hearing from the folks themselves. So the OEMs, back at PowerGen in January of this year, we were able to set up a panel and look at, various topics, including, of course, alternative fuels. But the audience really took us to what are those lead times? And each of the OEMs overwhelmingly stated that roughly 5 years is kind of the target. And some are even saying maybe a little longer, maybe it's 7 years. Why is this important? Well, a couple things. One, when you need the capacity now, that's the challenge. We don't want to wait. We want to have what we need right now. And, we've got great examples. I won't say great. They're challenging examples of how certain grids are stretched to the limit. So you'll have certain days seasonally where maybe you need more dispatchable energy available than other days. And so when we're getting closer and closer to that overall capacity maximum, you've got to expand. And so gas turbines are a great alternative. But then also we think about so many other characteristics driving there. But, moving from a couple years to 5 years to greater than 5 years, this is moving beyond a planning activity. And really, it's going to be a challenge as some of the utilities and other entities, not only in the U.S., but around the world, look to expand that capacity base.
So what is impacting the timing? Why is it getting so long?
So that's a great question, and it's kind of complex.
I only ask complex questions, Bobby.
Hey, that's great, because it is
no easy ones, no softballs today.
We don't want softballs. We don't want the easy questions. We want to dig into these complex issues, and really it's a big, when you say supply chain for the gas turbine, that involves a lot of things. It could be material. So thinking about where the metal's coming from, where are the ceramic coatings, but then it goes into manufacturing capabilities. It goes into so many other aspects, such as just the people, maybe your EPCs or other other trades that you need along the way. There may be delays, and so there's only so many resources that can be committed at one time. So if you look at the past, say, 2 decades, roughly 400 to 450 large frame gas turbines are, produced each year. And so that's kind of been around the max, and that is across multiple classes of gas turbines. That means sizes. So maybe you have, that's a mix of, say, 50 megawatt up to 300, 400 megawatt gas turbines. So, of course, if you look at those order numbers, the number of megawatts created each year can vary. So it's one of those deals of what are people ordering? And so last year, for example, there were a large number of aeroderivatives, a large number of E-class, and really that's the past couple years. But then we're starting to see first quarter of this year, the numbers are showing many more advanced class gas turbines. So people are buying the bigger units, needing to add those larger megawatt numbers to their capacity. And so when we think about, yes, there are expansion plans. GE Vernova and several others have announced that they're investing millions, hundreds of millions in manufacturing expansions. That will help some, but we're not seeing the investments to where we're going to double or triple the number of gas turbines being produced. Now, if we go back a little bit further in history, the late 90s, early 2000s, that was the big gas turbine boom. Natural gas in the US and really most places in the world was relatively cheap. It was a great, cheaper alternative for fuel than coal at the time. So you had a lot of orders. And then early 2000s, natural gas started to increase. So when the price started to go up, then all of a sudden the orders backed off, maybe even orders being canceled. And all that big manufacturing capability kind of compressed somewhat. And so then that's why we've somewhat leveled off to where we're at today. And that's been okay up to this point. But there's a lot of factors as to why now the driver is we need gas turbines and we need them now.
So something I like to say is EPRI's superpower is collaboration. So given these time constraints and costs and added pressure to utilities, how is EPRI supporting and also informing the industry on this topic?
Sure. So that is the benefit and the beauty of EPRI. In fact, that's what I love so much about working at EPRI is the fact that we have our global collaboration, and it's not just with the utilities. We have collaboration with OEMs, with national labs, universities, you name it. And so some of the things that we're able to do right now is help the utilities, help those that are looking to purchase their next gas turbine, understand what are their options. And so when we think about matching up exact needs with capabilities, so there's trying to help with a collection of that information along with not just the new gas turbine, but helping understand maybe there's upgrade opportunities for your existing units where you can get some of that capacity that you need right now through upgrades. So those are more near-term capabilities, while it may be incremental increases when you think about one gas turbine or even 10 compared to building a new one. Those increases can be much more in the near term. So we're trying to help understand how can you get the most out of the gas turbines that you have, and then how can you make the best choices for not only the gas turbine itself, but maybe it's the combined cycle plant configuration, because there's many differences between just a simple cycle gas turbine versus a combined cycle. And then with the combined cycle, there's other configurations that you can have there. So it's really trying to get all of those pieces of information together so that our members worldwide can make the best choices for their asset choices.
So a lot of these turbines, I assume, yes, are to replace maybe older ones, but it's for new builds going up. So where are you seeing some trends in new builds, but also what is causing the demand for these new builds?
So some of the trends as far as we think about where are these new builds happening. So first quarter, looking at the McCoy reports, of course, North America, the Middle East, and Asia are your primary drivers. And for some time, those three areas have been the key, purchasers of new gas turbines. And so right now, North America and also the Middle East are kind of 1 and 2. Asia has at least had a slower start to this year, but then last year, Asia had a large number of orders on new gas turbines. So really, those are kind of the three areas. So why are we seeing those three areas, and what are the drivers? Well, of course, regionally, there is going to be some difference in why new capacity is needed. When we think about in the U.S., regardless of what the administration plans or anything else, there's still a track for coal units to retire. That capacity has to be replaced. So that's number one. Many utilities are looking at capacity replacement, but then there's the other driver of data centers. Now, data centers are not the full picture here.
But it's the magic word, Bobby, data centers. It's like we can't go through an episode without talking about data centers these days.
Well, and that is truly important. I mean, that is a strong driver, but it's not the only driver. In fact, GE Vernova came out and made a statement in an article that this morning on how that's not the only factor, and that is true. It is a key factor for some areas, but it's not the only factor. But again, when we think about massive increases in potential capacity needs, that is a big driver, because a 1 gigawatt data center is a good size gas turbine combined cycle plant. And so that is not an easy absorption for most for most grids. So that's something that you really need to have plans for powering. Now, that is one factor. So we mentioned coal retirements, there's data centers, and then there's just simply growth. I mean, we look at the Middle East, there's all these big communities and areas that are being built in the Middle East. We think about some of their plans for doing X, Y, and Z technology development and growth. So there's so much physical growth there. Same for Asia. There's a lot of growth. There's coal retirements potentially in the future as well. There's also the fact that many areas have different drivers for how gas turbines are dispatched. So in certain countries, it's heavily driven on efficiency. So there are, needs for installing the latest and greatest technologies so that you can get dispatched first compared to some of the other technologies. So there's a lot of balances as to why we're seeing the need, but overall demand for electricity is just going to keep going up as we see other areas transitioning from traditional fossil fuels to having more and more electrification. That's a driver. Then we haven't really mentioned it, but there's still developing areas of the world that are just continuing to industrialize and seeing bigger footprints there. So the need, the desire to have electricity continues to grow, and gas turbines do serve a dispatchable capability for having that demand met.
So how do you see the gas turbine fleet changing or adapting to these current markets?
So that is, kind of a key thing that we're seeing for sure, and that adaptation is critical. So how are we seeing this? Well, we're seeing gas turbines that maybe when they were installed 10 or 20 years ago, they were intended to be base loaded, which meant that you turn them on and you usually only turn them off once or twice a year to do maintenance. And that's it. Now we're seeing those assets turning on and off weekly, daily. So there's a lot more cyclic operation, which of course is a challenge from a maintenance standpoint. The gas turbine is not made to operate in those capacities.
Can you share why they're being turned on and off so much more frequently? Especially, if demand is going up, why are we turning them off?
That is a great point to make. And so as we think about renewables, we're seeing continued growth in renewables. Well, let's talk about solar. When do you typically have solar? Only during the day. So when that supply source tails off as the sun goes down, you still need the electrons to be able to power, your HVAC, your lights, you name it.
So essentially, is these gas turbine plants that are typically based being used more as a variable resource?
We're having to be that variable dispatchable resource to meet the variable renewable resource, because they have to play together. And so what you're seeing is that variation from renewables, whether it's wind and solar, and then we're having to meet that in some form or fashion. So of course, there's other supplies such as nuclear that is a great baseload opportunity for certain markets where that's available. That's great, but a nuclear plant is not terribly flexible. Coal plants are being asked to be flexible as well, but there's still challenges there. So a gas turbine can start and stop relatively quickly. It depends on the type of gas turbine, but we have some rather large gas turbines that can start up in the matter of, 10, 20, 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer when you start talking about combined cycle. But we can start to see the ability to meet those demand needs while renewables start to trail off. So yes, renewables, the variation with renewables is causing the gas turbine to need to respond in like fashion.
Interesting. So that brings us to about the end of our time. But I do want to give you an opportunity to leave any closing thoughts with our listeners, anything you weren't able to mention that you think would help inform our listeners on this topic.
Well, so I think one of the key aspects is to realize that EPRI research does play a critical role as we're thinking about not only the next generation gas turbine and making the most out of these new investments, But again, making those key decisions for assets that are already on the ground and being the backbone currently for meeting these variable demand needs. And so, gas turbines, obviously worldwide, are being used more and more. So this is, a great time to be in the gas turbine research area. Lots of great topics. And so we will definitely continue to see these assets being used for decades to come.
And I'd say the energy sector in general is a great place to be doing research right now. There's so much going on. Hey, look at how varied our episodes here are on the EPRI Current. Well, Bobby, thanks so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, I'm your host, Samantha Gilman, and we'll talk to you next time. If you liked today's show, we invite you to subscribe to our podcast and feel free to share with your colleagues and friends. For more information about EPRI, please visit our website at www.epri.com. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and X at EPRI News. Together, we're shaping the future of energy.